Well, nobody's winning the war because both sides are getting destroyed. So I'd say this is a global disaster, but nobody's coming out ahead. Israel will absolutely get shattered by this. The Gulf countries will get shattered. Iran will face terrible tragedy. The world economy will suffer a huge downturn. War is truly a lose-lose proposition. No one's winning. And no one's going to win. No. This is so typical of the United States. My whole life has been watching my government make these terrible, bloody misadventures that are just destructive and that don't succeed at all. And this one is going to fail just the same way. That's a rational policy. You have a supreme leader who says no to nuclear weapons. So you murder him. You have a treaty which puts Iran under strict monitoring by the International Atomic Energy Agency. So you rip it up, as Trump did in 2018 at the enthusiastic cheerleading of Benjamin Netanyahu. These people are not interested in the Iran nuclear issue. They're interested in overthrowing the Iranian government and taking control of Iranian politics. This is something quite different. And
oil.
Of course, oil goes with it. The United States wants to commandeer the world's oil supplies, no doubt. That's what Venezuela's action is about. That's what the U.S. interest in the Gulf is. They already essentially dictate the oil policy of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the Emirates, Kuwait, Bahrain. Donald Trump said yesterday that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia has to kiss his ass. I'm quoting the President of the United States. The President of the United States. Will someone take notice that this is not right? The reason that I think it's important to take notice is that I do believe that if Prime Minister Modi and President Putin and President Xi and President Lula and other world leaders seriously said to Mr. Trump, you've got to stop this before you destroy the world, before you destroy the Middle East, before you destroy Israel, before you risk everything. You've got to stop this. It would make a difference. But we haven't heard that very clearly. That's quite different from saying we call on all parties to stop. That's really quite different. This is a brazen war of aggression by Israel and the United States. I'm saying that the government of India and its other major partners need to say that clearly. If they don't, it's just impunity for the United States, for a president who says that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia needs to kiss his ass. But they don't say that. They don't dare. It seems. But why is it left to a professor? Sorry, why can't a prime minister of a country of 1.5 billion people and his colleague, the president of a country of 1.4 billion people, and nuclear superpowers, because India, China, Russia are all nuclear superpowers, tell Donald Trump the truth? Stop your delusions. You're risking the whole world.
There should be a person in the White House who's willing to listen, sir. You've heard him yourself. So anyway, let's just...
I do think that Trump would listen. The reason is he wants to play with the big boys. He doesn't want to be dissed by the big boys. And he would be. And he wants respect. Well, the way he gets respect is by stopping this brazen aggression, by telling Netanyahu, who in these global military terms, it can be told to go home and shut up, by the way, because Israel's done nothing but create chaos in the Middle East for decades. That's what responsible leaders should be doing right now, before it's too late. Not catering to delusions, not visiting Netanyahu, who is an indicted war criminal, whose country committed genocide, who is at war across the Middle East. No, this is not right. It's really important right now to get off this escalatory path. The whole world needs that right now.
Right. There are some reports that suggest indirect talks between US and Iran, with Pakistan, Turkey, and Egypt acting as conduits, mediation efforts with them. Do you think Iranians should trust this process, given that more US troops have just landed in the Gulf?
Of course, they don't trust it. They know they're about to be invaded. They've said it just within recent minutes, just before we got on the air. They understand that. And they don't trust these countries. These are not the right countries. How could the BRICS leave this to Pakistan? Are you kidding? The reason it's in Pakistan is that India, which is president of the BRICS, did not say anything yet. It shouldn't be in Pakistan. This is not a credible place for this. The credible place is with Russia, China, and India, the world's three other superpowers. To say to the United States, you've got to stop this. And you've got to make your acolyte, Israel, stop this. We've had enough of Israel. How many wars is Israel going to create? Israel's bombing everyone. It's invading Lebanon. It's bombing Iran. It's bombing Iraq. It's bombing Syria. It's destroying lives and people in the West Bank. It's possible, by the way, to get them to stop. It's 10 million people totally dependent on the United States for its security. All the United States has to do is tell Israel, okay, your rampage is over. Your tantrum is over. But they don't, of course, because no one tells the United States that.
Who's the biggest spoiler of peace in the Middle East, according to you? Israel?
Of
United
course.
States?
Israel, of course. But this is so clear because Israel's doctrine is we are going to be greater Israel, they call it, which means we're going to have sovereignty at minimum from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean, which means we're going to rule over or expel or exterminate the 8 to 10 million Palestinians in our midst. So that's the starting point. Then there are some zealots among them who say, why stop there? God gave us all the land from Egypt to Mesopotamia, some of the real crazies say. And one of those is the U.S. ambassador, who's a so-called Christian Zionist, who a few weeks ago publicly said, yes, Israel has all the land from the Nile to the Euphrates. And what happened when he said that? Was he fired? Was he reprimanded? Was he called home? Was he instructed to do something different? Not at all. That was just taken as normal. And so Israel says, great, we have the U.S. backing to do whatever we want, to act with impunity. So, of course, Israel is the greatest destabilizer of the Middle East. It's been the cheerleader of every war, and not just in the Middle East, but also in Africa, in the Horn of Africa, and in North Africa. It was the cheerleader of overthrowing Gaddafi in Libya. It played absolutely awful role in Sudan, in Somalia, and all the other countries that we've talked about, in Lebanon and Syria, in Iraq, Iran, Yemen, Palestine. So, of course, it's the big destabilizer, because it's a country that does not live within its borders. And the United States has granted it full impunity, and too many countries have granted the United States full impunity.
How dangerous do the next 30 days look?
Excuse me?
How dangerous do the next 30 days look?
30 days could see the blowing up of the energy infrastructure of the Middle East. It's going quickly. These oil fields and gas fields and refineries and pumping stations and port facilities are all out in the open. They don't have protection. Even simple drones can destroy them, can set them ablaze. 30 days is a long time for this fighting, and it's inevitable that it's going to continue at least 30 days unless it is stopped diplomatically. It's not going to be stopped militarily in 30 days. No way. And but 30 days is enough time to destroy a great deal of the energy infrastructure of the region. And oil prices this morning are at $114 a barrel for Brent. Could be $130, $140, $150 a barrel. And that isn't only for petrol, that's for diesel, that's for fertilizer, that's for all the petrochemicals. It's we're just on the verge of blowing up the world's energy supplies. And not just the Strait of Hormuz, I'm talking about the fields, the production. Yeah. We're very close to that. 30 days is a long time in this war.
Okay.
It should stop. It should stop now.
Okay. And just before I let you go, do you think Iran was, as Trump has claimed repeatedly, ever on the verge of building a nuclear weapon?
Iran was rather desperately trying to negotiate an agreement with the United States for 15 years in which Iran would subject itself to intense international scrutiny to not build a nuclear weapon in return for lifting crushing economic sanctions, which have had a devastating effect on living standards and survival rates of the Iranian people. So they've been trying that for 15 years. I know it personally because Iranian diplomats would contact me. Do you have any idea who in the White House we could talk to? Is there any back channel, anything we can do? This was not a game from their side. They were a little bit innocent in this, thinking that the U.S. was really going to negotiate with them. I don't think the U.S. ever had an intention to negotiate with them. The U.S. wanted surrender. It wanted to reverse the 1979 revolution. It wanted to put Iran back under U.S. control. Israel wants to assert its hegemony militarily across the Middle East and West Asia and the Horn of Africa. And so they did not want a nuclear weapon. And they've said so for 15 years. And every time they tried to show it, they got bombed or assassinated for their efforts. So how much bad faith does the U.S. have to show before people say, that's bad faith? But this was absolutely reckless, going back at least to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. The U.S. wants to control the world, doesn't want to negotiate with the world. It wants to boss the world around. It wants to tell India, you can buy Russian oil, or you can't buy Russian oil, or you can do this, or you can't do that. That's the American way. And that's the American way everywhere. Demands, not negotiations, demands.
That sounds like a very scary note on which I'll end this.
Yeah, the only point of optimism that I would say is that if the big players in the world would directly take this on, it would end, because there's so much bluff in it. There's so much bravado. There's so much delusion. It's possible to talk the United States down, but not when everyone normalizes it and just thinks that a president can talk in these vulgarities or bomb in these vulgarities and get away with it. That's the difference. I'm not pessimistic. I'm just a little bit frustrated that we don't have the grown-ups responding.
Right. How would you rate this moment in geopolitics? Is this one of the most dangerous geopolitical moments that you've encountered in years?
Yeah, I'd say the most dangerous moment since 1945 was the Cuban Missile Crisis, because we were within minutes or seconds of blowing up the world. Here, I would say this is number two, because we're within days or weeks of blowing up the world's energy supply.